Number 7. Napoleon Beasley. Napoleon Beasley was 17 when he killed John Luttig, a 63-year-old businessman and father of a federal judge in Tyler, Texas, on April 19, 1994. Beasley and his friends attempted to carjack Luttig's Mercedes-Benz. He shot Luttig twice in the head with a .45 caliber pistol and also fired at Luttig's wife, who survived by playing dead. Beasley confessed to the crime and was tried as an adult for capital murder. He was convicted and sentenced to death in 1995, despite appeals based on his age, background, and the unconstitutionality of executing juvenile offenders. He faced difficulties in obtaining a fair review of his case due to the personal ties of some Supreme Court justices to Judge J. Michael Luttig, the son of the victim. Beasley was executed by lethal injection on May 28, 2002, at the age of 25, becoming the 13th person executed in the United States for juvenile crimes since 1976. Number 6. Sean Richard Sellers. 16-year-old Sean Richard Sellers committed 3 murders in Oklahoma between 1985 and 1986. He murdered convenience store clerk Robert Bauer to know what it felt like to kill. Later, he shot his mother, Vonda Bellofato, and stepfather Lee Bellofato while they were sleeping. He was arrested on March 6, 1986, and confessed to the crimes. Sellers was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and tried as an adult. He claimed to be influenced by Satanism, the game Dungeons and Dragons, and possessed by a demon named Ezurate. He also claimed to have multiple personality disorder and that one of his alter personalities committed the murders. This was rejected by the jury. Sellers appealed his conviction and sentence on grounds including age, mental illness, ineffective assistance of counsel, and unconstitutionality of executing juvenile offenders. His appeals were denied by state and federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, which split 3-3 on his request for a stay of execution. He sought clemency from the governor of Oklahoma, but was denied. Sellers was executed by lethal injection on February 4, 1999, at the age of 29. Number 5. Gary Lee Graham. Gary Lee Graham, also known as Sheikha Sankofa, was 17 years old when he killed Bobby Grant Lambert in Houston, Texas, on May 13, 1981. He shot Lambert in the chest in a supermarket parking lot and fled with his change and car keys. Graham was arrested on May 20, 1981, after he raped and robbed a taxi driver who escaped and called the police. He confessed to a series of crimes, including 20 armed robberies, 3 kidnappings, 1 rape, and 3 attempted murders. He was charged with capital murder for Lambert's death and was sentenced to death in 1981. Graham maintained his innocence, claiming he was elsewhere at the time of the shooting. His appeals were denied by state and federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, which rejected his final appeal by a 5-4 vote on June 22, 2000. He sought clemency from the Texas governor, but was denied. Graham was executed by lethal injection on June 22, 2000, at the age of 36. He was the last person executed in the United States for crimes committed as a juvenile since 1976. Number 4. Brandon Bernard. In 1999, Brandon Bernard, an 18-year-old from Iowa, was involved in the robbery, kidnapping, and murder of Todd and Stacy Bagley, 2 youth pastors. Bernard and 4 other teenage gang members abducted the Bagleys and drove for hours. Christopher Villalva shot both victims in the head and ordered Bernard to set their car on fire. Todd died instantly, while Stacy's cause of death is disputed. In 2000, a federal jury convicted Bernard of 2 counts of murder and recommended a death sentence. Villalva was also sentenced to death and executed in September 2020. The other 3 teens were given lesser sentences due to their cooperation with the prosecution. Bernard's case attracted the attention of celebrities, activists, and politicians who argued for clemency due to his minority, low culpability, remorse, and becoming a model prisoner. However, appeals were rejected by courts, and President Trump did not intervene to stop the execution. Bernard was executed by lethal injection on December 10, 2020, in Terre Haute, Indiana, making him the youngest person in nearly 70 years to be executed for a crime committed as a teenager. Number 3. Krista Pike. Krista Pike, a high school dropout in Knoxville, Tennessee, was sentenced to death for the torture and murder of her classmate Colleen Slemmer in 1995. Pike, 18 at the time, had joined the Job Corps program and dated Darrell Shipp, a fellow dropout and gang member who shared her interest in Satanism. Pike became jealous of Slemmer, and together with Shipp and a friend, Shadola Peterson, lured her to a secluded area near the university campus. There she beat and taunted Slemmer, even carving a pentagram on Slemmer's chest. Pike crushed Slemmer's skull with asphalt and kept a piece as a souvenir, which she showed off to other students. She was arrested within 36 hours and confessed to the police, but claimed she only wanted to frighten Slemmer. In 1996, she was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to death by lethal injection. Shipp was also convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Peterson testified against Pike and Shipp and received probation. Pike has been on death row in Tennessee for over 25 years. She has appealed her sentence several times but has been denied. Her execution date has not been set. Number 2. Paula Cooper. Paula Cooper, a 16-year-old Indiana woman, was sentenced to death for the murder of Ruth Pelka, a 78-year-old Bible studies teacher, in 1985. Cooper and 3 other teenage girls skipped school and drank wine before entering Pelkey's house, stabbing her 33 times. They stole $10 and Pelkey's car and fled. Cooper confessed to the crime and was charged with murder, robbery, and confinement. She was tried as an adult and convicted in 1986. Her sentence drew condemnation from human rights groups, religious leaders, and celebrities who argued she was young and deserved a chance at rehabilitation. Pope John Paul II personally appealed to the Indiana governor for mercy. In 1988, the Indiana Supreme Court upheld Cooper's conviction but reduced her sentence to 60 years in prison. Cooper spent 27 years in prison, earning a college degree and expressing remorse for her actions. In 2013, she was released on parole at age 43. However, she struggled to adjust to life outside prison and committed suicide in 2015. Number 1. George Stinney. George Stinney was a 14-year-old African-American boy executed in South Carolina for the murders of 2 white girls, Betty June Binnicker and Mary Emma Thames. Born in the segregated mill town of Alcolu, South Carolina, Stinney and his sister were the last people to see the girls alive on March 23, 1944. The next day, the girls' bodies were found in a ditch with severe head injuries caused by a blunt instrument. Stinney was arrested and interrogated by white officers without his parents or a lawyer present. He allegedly confessed to killing the girls with a railroad spike after trying to rape one of them. However, there was no physical evidence linking him to the crime and no written record of his confession. Stinney was tried by an all-white jury and found guilty of murder. He was sentenced to death by electrocution. Stinney's family and lawyer appealed the verdict, but their efforts were denied by the state Supreme Court. He was executed at the South Carolina State Penitentiary in Columbia on June 16, 1944. In 2014, a circuit court judge vacated Stinney's conviction, stating that he had been denied due process and a fair trial.